Now Russia's winning the war, and they keep taking more and more territory in Ukraine.
20%.
Yes,
terrifying.
exactly. And Lindy, like, this is so terrible because Trump does want peace. He wants the war to end. It was one of his promises when he ran, but it's a lot more difficult to bring Russia to the table and for Putin to really engage sincerely when he's winning. You know what I'm saying? And he wants to, solidify his influence in that region of the world. And I don't know if Trump's going to be able to get Putin to engage for peace deals, especially because now Zelensky is like, I don't want to give up any territory. Trump says, maybe we're going to do a territory swap. And Zelensky's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not in favor of that. So already there's like a red line that's been crossed by what Trump is proposing as part of a potential peace deal. I don't know what's going to come out of this meeting with Putin. I wish there would be peace in the follow-up to it. But I'm pretty black-pilled on this issue.
And again, imagine saying Donald Trump wants peace in any fucking context, regardless of Russia and Ukraine. Look at what's going on with Palestine. Donald Trump continues to greenlight the greatest Holocaust of our lifetime, the biggest fucking slaughter of innocent children, women, and men that we've ever fucking witnessed. And you're going to come out here and say this guy wants peace? Give me a fucking break. Whatever he wants, it's not peace. He might want himself to look good. He might want to get credit for delivering on a campaign promise. But to say this dude wants peace, he's a genocidal fucking butcher.
Not only that, but he's also created a bunch of conflicts already since becoming the president this time again. He did an insane military strike on Iran, and Gavin and I had to shit ourselves for a week wondering if we were like, oh my God, is this going to be the real escalation that, surprise, Iran is actually the catalyst for World War III. It's not our involvement in Russia and Ukraine. It's not Israel, Palestine, or I guess it would be an extension of that, really. But it's totally nuts to say that. And after watching his exchange with Zelensky today, it is so obvious that he's not interested in, really putting the fucking, Vladimir Putin in a headlock and making sure that he really negotiates change and wheeling and dealing. And this guy knows the art of the deal. It's just crazy to fall for that. And to be the left winger who supposedly is like black-pilled on foreign policy, but I still believe Donald Trump wants what's right. It's just such useful idiot territory for the right wing because, you mentioned it earlier in the live stream. Who does Donald Trump envy more than potentially any other world leader? Who does he admire deeply? Vladimir Putin. He wants that in America, right? So do you really think he's going to slap Putin's wrist and be like, no, you can't do that? Of course not. He's going to do what he has to do to feel like he always looks like the big man so that he doesn't look like a little bitch. He'll go with the status quo. He'll do what the military advisors tell him. Oh, send anti-tank missiles to Ukraine. Oh, do this and do that. But he's not going to cross the big line that would make Vladimir Putin his number one enemy. And he's doing the same thing with Zelensky, right? He already knows that that's a ace in his back pocket so that he can start using it as an excuse to run in 2028. So look at what happened when there was wartime in Ukraine. They couldn't have an election. We can't have an election during wartime over here. So he's kind of having his cake and eating it too. And to not point that out to your audience, but to act as if absurdly he's acting in good faith and he's really trying to negotiate something when we all know that's not true.
Yep, 100%, 100%. And it's like he's never had a pro-peace approach to this situation. He literally contributed to the escalation that caused Putin to fucking invade. He was shipping Ukraine all these weapons even before fucking the actual invasion occurred, and then once he became president again, he continued to ramp up the arming of Ukraine, even to degrees that Joe Biden wouldn't, as you mentioned, with these anti-tank missiles and other weapons. So to act like he's ever had a pro-peace approach here, no, all he wants is for Putin to obey him. All he wants is for Zelensky to obey him. Yes. And he doesn't like being humiliated when he tells one of them to stop what they're doing and then they disobey. That's all that actually fucking matters. But if he was really a pro-peace diplomatic president, he would have had a very different approach to this from the very fucking beginning.
Oh, 100%. And to be honest, in the days of the Vanguard blog, one of the ways that we argued that people were being hysterical and overreaching in the Manchurian candidate accusations, obviously there were a laundry list of things to legitimately criticize Donald Trump for. He was a criminal. He was a sexual predator. He was a liar. He was a thief. He was all kinds of horrible, horrible things in his first term and before he ever was elected president. But there was this mass hysteria that he was like a Manchurian candidate that had been hand selected by the Kremlin and Vladimir Putin, and that he was, coming to do all of Putin's biddings. And one of the ways that we kind of debunked that, and we said, hey, Donald Trump has a lot of really, really shady connections to another foreign government. It's called Saudi Arabia. Let's look at that, where it's a lot more legitimate, because he's been giving the Ukrainians basically everything they want from a militaristic aid standpoint in the post annexation of Crimea era, right? Because that was what a lot of people were pissed off about when Obama was president, right? People were mad that Obama didn't intervene militarily after Vladimir Putin said, oh, Crimea is actually part of Russia. We're going to take that over. People at Russian television like Abby Martin quit and resigned because they said that this was an act of imperialism that they couldn't stand for, and they couldn't continue to work for an organization. Or maybe she didn't resign, but she did an entire clip about it. I think she ultimately did choose to resign over that. Either way, there was a lot of controversy because Russia did that, and it was a massive overstep. And so, this was all part of the geopolitical situation in 2017 when Trump came to office, and he did choose to supply weapons with Ukraine. He did, support the escalations in the Black Sea that were being discussed and that would have been antagonistic towards Russia. His foreign policy in Syria was not exactly pleasant towards Russia. So these were all things that we could use to debunk that. And all of those instances show that he's not that interested in peace long term.
Yep, 100%. Anything else, Anna, related that you wanted to take a look at?
Yeah, we got one more over here, and this one is about Trump federalizing the troops in DC. This is absolutely insane to simp for from Anna Kasparian. This is the absolute onset of fascism in our country. This is even for Republicans. I would look you in the face and say, you no longer believe in small government. You don't stand for anything. You have no sincere beliefs to hold on to. Because this is exactly what we fought a fucking revolution to not have happen. We didn't want amorphous goons and redcoats coming into our fucking streets and cracking heads and telling everybody what the fuck to do. We literally fought a revolution for it. I don't want to hear the Republican Party say a damn thing about patriotism, and I never want to hear Anna Kasparian say a damn thing about patriotism or fascism or the onset of the fucking anything else. It's crazy that she defends this, but let's hear it from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, this one's really wild.
If he wanted to do something as extreme, in my opinion, as declaring martial law to federalize police all across the country, like that is, in my opinion, a legitimate concern. But at the same time, again, I want those who are worried about this, and I am worried about that, to consider the fact that if you ignore a problem, well, then you're going to create like a groundswell of support for more authoritarian measures, and that's what's happened. Look at the polling.
If you fucking these cities, at least DC, is at a like historic low as far as crime. So what do you mean if you ignore these issues, it's only going to give an excuse for the Republicans to be fascist? It's like, what else were they supposed to do?
Yeah,
they literally achieved their goal of getting crime down to a historic fucking low, and that's not just in the city of DC. That goes for New York City as well. They're also experiencing a historic low crime. That's the case for all these fucking cities for the most part, not to deny that there is crime or that crime exists and that it negatively impacts people. Obviously, that's the case in any fucking city. But no, that's not an excuse to fucking institute martial law and just go straight fucking fascist because some crime exists somewhere in some cities. Like, yeah, that's just called a city. That is every city in the fucking world, even the ones that are total fascist fucking police states, like you apparently want this country to be.
Literally, that's honestly such a fucking great point. I was in a fucking police state not that long ago, okay? And I love the Philippines. It's a very beautiful country, right? But when you go to Manila, you are fucking aware that you are in a police state. And it breeds all kinds of corruption. It doesn't actually help anybody. There's still insane poverty. There's still crime. It's just those people are punished in a way that's absolutely unbearable, right? It's really hard to see. And also, it's just not that nice walking around your fucking street, going to the mall, and there's dudes with shotguns everywhere. It's menacing. It's not. It doesn't make you feel like you're in a 21st century society. It makes you feel like you're, in an old school like fucking.
Dictatorship or something.
Literally, it makes you feel like you're back in time in the Stone Ages when there were like knights and shining armor walking around, and if anybody did anything bad, you would just get fucking whacked by one. I mean, it really changes how we perceive ourselves as a free society. And I understand we do live in a fucking hyper militarized police state already, right? But when you go to a place like Manila and you see how much worse it could get, or even when you're hanging out in Ho Chi Minh City, like all over Asia, it's not uncommon to see people in military uniform that are there to do police work, right? And it's fucking ominous, man. And you can say that that's my American sensibilities. I don't judge those other countries for choosing to do it that way if that's how they believe it should be done. In my country, I don't want to fucking have that shit.
Yeah, and it's not just those kind of countries, also like a lot of the Middle Eastern countries, which Donald Trump really idolizes, like Saudi Arabia and the UAE. People always talk, oh, it's so clean there. It's so nice. You know why? Because if you get caught doing literally any crime, even something petty like theft, you're fucking made a slave. You're put in prison for like 20 fucking years. Like, is that the society we want? Do you really value walking down a clean street so much that you're willing to sacrifice that level of freedom? Like, no, I'm not. You know, I'm not. I'm willing to accept that one of the consequences of living in a free world is that I might be a victim of a crime. I'd rather accept that than live in a literal fascist fucking police state that punishes people even for doing petty crimes, which is what Anna seemingly wants, and also for all the homeless people to be swept out into concentration camps.
Yeah, that was one of the things that was truly deeply alarming to me, and what made me realize the extent that we've drifted into fascism as a nation. When a lot of people on the left made a big point to say crime is at an all-time low in DC, or a decade's low. It's not in the top 10 most violent cities in America. There's absolutely no reason to do this. It was selective. It was political. It was because it has a large black population, and also it's going to be a national spectacle because it would have been in the shadow of the nation's capital. These are the reasons why he chose to do it here, and it had nothing to do with safety. And you get a lot of people who are, oh, I work on the Hill, or oh, I live in Georgetown, or oh, I'm in DC, but I work in politics, and they're like, well, guys, there are quality of life crimes, right? People, sometimes they do robberies, or it might not be violent, but it's still gross, and those people need to be prosecuted, and libs never want to do anything about those people who, they're just like littering or pissing and shitting in public or breaking into your car. Like, what about those people? That's not even called violent crime, but it's out of control in places like San Francisco and Washington DC and stuff like that. So your argument is to say that because there are homeless people and because there are people who are acting erratically, that you want to literally descend into like a Fourth Reich system in America where we allow a fascist dictator to put U.S. troops on the street to police us, to fucking conquer us, to degrade us, to make sure that they're constantly surveilling us. That's what you think is the correct solution, instead of maybe giving these people jobs, helping them get some housing, right? Would that not be a more fucking effective solution? How about rent control so people can actually have a roof over their heads, right? We all don't forfeit every single one of our civil liberties so that you can be the only one that lives in luxury while the rest of us suffer. How about we just alleviate that mass suffering? It doesn't cross these people's minds.
Yeah, 100%. And also, obviously, they're not taking into consideration the actual reasons why there might be an increase in petty crime, theft, homelessness. It's called gentrification, bitch. In DC specifically, think about how many working class neighborhoods have been totally fucking gentrified so bougie pieces of shit can come live there and price out the actual residents. And then it's like, yeah, where the fuck are you supposed to go if you're poor and you can't even live in your own fucking neighborhood anymore? What do you think is going to happen? Yeah, of course, there's no plan to address that.
Most Americans are actually in favor of what
Yes,
he's doing.
yes.
That's the problem.
Near you and in Los Angeles.
That's the fucking problem. Yes, you're right about that. Most Americans are low-key kind of fascist. I remember one time I spent a day going on this binge where I watched videos about the most crazy prisons in the entire world, the most hardcore, just, insane prisons where it's like 85 people in a small room with the light on, like the alligator Auschwitz kind of shit, but in like real third world countries. And the whole comment section was a bunch of Americans being like, yeah, like this is how you should treat criminals. Like, yeah, prison's not supposed to be nice. That's what you should suffer if you commit a crime. People should be afraid of this sort of punishment. And it's like, yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of Americans that hold that ideology for whatever reason. Potentially it is because of some level of trauma from experiencing crimes themselves. I'm not denying that. But yeah, we need to combat that.
Look out the door if you hear an ambulance. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there. Be there. The vanguard will be there.
Be there. Be there.